We are gathered here to commemorate a day that celebrates not just a beverage, but a symbol of nourishment, health, and transformative power of human ingenuity. We celebrate National Milk Day as a tribute to the man who pioneered India's dairy industry, Dr. Verghese Kurian, the visionary behind the White Revolution. He is so called because of its initiatives and immense contribution to the dairy sector. Dr. V. Kurian's lifelong purpose of work can be summed up in one word: empowerment. Empowerment of small and marginal farmers and landless laborers. Apart from the milk revolution that he spearheaded so successfully, his work has greatly impacted on the lives of millions of cooperative dairy farmers, socially, politically, and most importantly, economically. The milk revolution is, in fact, a byproduct of the empowerment he brought about through the Amul model dairy cooperatives. In Dr. Kurian's word, he was not in the business of milk. Milk was the only medium that he used to empower the farmers. His book, I Too Had a Dream, narrates the empowering journey of farmers and the growth of milk cooperatives in India. Dr. Kurian always regarded himself as an employee of the farmers who would do anything to bring prosperity in their favor. In his service of over 50 years, he attained 15 honorary degrees from different institutions of the world as he believed that learning should never stop. His enduring personality, spirit, and conviction of turning the impossible into possible won him many accolades such as Raman Magasai Award for Community Leadership, Padam Shri, Padam Bhushan, Krishi Ratna Award, World Food Prize, Padam Vibhushan, Economic Times Award for Corporate Excellence, and several other awards. But the best award that the people of country gave him was the title Milkman of India. After a lifetime of struggle and conviction towards serving the nation, Dr. Verghese Kurian breathed his last on the 9th September 2012 due to brief illness at Anand. Dr. Verghese Kurian will always be remembered as a person who redefined the meaning of milk as a powerful tool for economic development. So, here, with immense gratitude and heartfelt appreciation, we are thankful to our Vice Chancellor, RSK Gavalier, whose support and dedication to this event have been a source of immense inspiration for our entire team. We are truly privileged to have you as Vice Chancellor, sir. Your endless motivation and encouragement serve as beacon of inspiration for us all, and we are deeply grateful for your belief in our potential. Thank you, sir. So, starting with today's session, we are here with our guest of honor, Dr. Nagappa Karbasnabar. He is an associate professor and a head of Department of Veterinary Public Health and Epidemiology at the Veterinary College, Vidyanagar, Hassan, Karnataka. He has a PhD in Veterinary Public Health from GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Pantnagar, Uttarakhand. Dr. Nagappa has worked on a variety of research projects. He is a highly respected researcher and educator in the field of veterinary public health. His work has helped to improve the safety and quality of milk and other animal products in India. Dr. Nagappa has also published extensively in national and international journals, books, and book chapters. He is a recipient of several awards, including the Young Scientist Award from Indian Society for Veterinary Immunology and Biotechnology, and Professor Mahendra Pal Award for Best Presentation on Zoonosis from the Indian Association of Veterinary Public Health Specialists. Dr. Nagappa's work has made significant contributions to the field of veterinary public health in India. His research has helped to improve the safety and quality of milk and other animal products, and his extension activities have educated farmers and veterinarians about best practices for animal production and disease prevention. So it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. So shall we start, sir?
Definitely, madam. So, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible and visible.
Visible. Both.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, at the outset, let me take the opportunity to thank RVS KVV Gwalior, Honorable Vice Chancellor, The event coordinator, Dr. Sharma ji, and Harshdeep Kaur from AgriMeet Foundation. Indeed, it is a wonderful evening and Sunday too. So we will go through whatever the topic assigned to us to justify in whatever the time that is allotted to us. Up to 8 p.m. we have a time. So if required, we may take some more time also depending on the audience response. So right now there are 233 audience who are into this one. So without spending much time on other things, so let us directly go into jump into the topic, that is milk safety and public health. In this, we are going to cover the infections, the residues, AMR, that is antimicrobial resistance, and mycotoxins to the extent possible. For this, let me thank my parent organization, Karnataka Veterinary Animal and Fishery Science University, and Dean of our college, Veterinary College Hassan, for permitting me in particular to interact with you on this special occasion. Madam Harshdeep Kaur has very elaborately talked about the milkman of India. So recently we had his birth centenary celebrations, and this NDDB and Indian Dairy Association jointly felt that we know that consequent to the Operation Flood, we had the tremendous socio-economic transformations in India and nutritional sustainability with respect to the milk in India. And this is none other than Dr. Varghese Kurian. It is he who made this happen. And as a result of that, we are today top 1 in milk production in the country, in the world. Many people often get confused with respect to one more similar term, that is a day, that is World Milk Day, which is a global day, which is celebrated on June 1st. And this has been started by United Nations, the Food and Agriculture Organizations, since 2001 to recognize the importance of dairy sector in socio-economic transformations and again nutritional sustainability across the globe. To create awareness, to bring the stakeholders together, this day has been specifically designed and it is celebrated worldwide as a United Nations Day. Now, this National Milk Day, what is the need for India to celebrate its own National Milk Day? Every country on different occasions, depending on the contributions of the people, they celebrate their own national days. So India also thought in similar lines, and they selected an opt date for this one, which is the 26th November, the birthday of Dr. Varghese Kurian for his contributions. Remaining things have been already covered by Dr. Harshdeep Kaur. Now, with the Operation Flood in India, we have raised the milk production in the post-independence era in a steady way, and we have reached about 221 million tons of milk production, which is the highest in the global scenario as of now. And if you see the data from 2013-14 and 21-22, there has been a dramatic increase in the production of the milk in the country. And this sector, since the post-independence, it has kept a very good momentum of growth, and the growth stands somewhere around 5 to 6%. And India, we all know that is largest livestock population holding country in the world. We have largest bovine population and we have highest milk production. And production per animal in India, it is somewhere around 70 plus kilograms of milk per day with respect to cattle. And this varies from place to place. And also around 50 plus liters in buffaloes. Again, this also varies from place to place. So productivity has been already attained. So what we look for is the sustainability of the sector so that it is going to nourish the people and is also going to transform the socio-economic arenas in our country, for which we should be worried. 387 grams per day per person is a good growth. What else we require from a sector which was in the post-independence time, it was totally unorganized, and the organized sector is increasing in India, and two important species of animals, that is buffalo and cattle, are the species that are contributing to this enormous production of the milk. Even though the production of milk in India is from the masses, unlike the other countries, which is the mass production. So what problems, the real tribute to Dr. Kurian will be, we have to continue the sustainability of the dairy sector in days to come, so that it is going to nurture the country in days to come. So for that purpose, the basic threat that arises in the WTO era, where we have SPS and TPT measures, are related to either hygiene or the safety. So when it comes to the food hygiene means the food, that is milk, is a food. We have to ensure that a safe food is produced and it is given to the people, and it should be suitable for the consumption. So the basic issues the sector that is going to face in days to come, once the productivity has been attained, they are all linked to the food safety. And if we have all very distinguished, what we can say, the minds or the brains of a country, who are either scholars or who are faculty or who are scientists or who are involved in the policy making. So if we all think under the One Health these days, we will realize that we can only continue our sustainable production from farm to fork and then meet out all the trade requirements by ensuring food safety only in days to come. That is why this topic has been selected. And in this, we are going to discuss some basic aspects so that everybody whoever is listening is clear about the basic concepts and way forward what we need to do. If we can understand this, probably we are going to address the problems, thereby improving the trade, enhancing nutritional security, and addressing, of course, the food safety issues. The basic impetus for all these safety related aspects, food safety or milk safety related aspects, what is accumulated in the literature, comes from the Greek mythology. Hygeia, one of the daughters of the Asclepius, she personified for the health, and it is a set of practices for the preservation of the health. When we talk about the preservation of the health, the hazards, they are going to affect the health of the people. That is why we have to address these hazards through the cleanliness, through the sanitary measures, through hygienic measures, and we can extend this hygiene that was somewhere mythologically started to today's good agricultural practices, good hygienic practices, good manufacturing practices, leading to total quality management. This is what is requirement of FSMS, ISO 22000, food safety system certification, and plus. So the problem that we are facing at the dead end, that is the trade, lies with the hygiene, sanitation, and freedom from the physical, chemical, and the biological hazards in the milk or the milk products. So in order to safeguard the public, in order to promote the trade of the milk or the milk products, let it be within the country or across the country, international trade. So milk hygiene forms a integral part of the production systems, which is often neglected, ignored. We have two contrasts here. One contrast here is we have the production from the masses, and other contrast is digitalization of the technology, automation of the technology, and mass production at congregated or the concentrated units. So these two extremes, when we have within a single country, because ours is not a country, it is rather a subcontinent with a diverse ecological, biological, biogeochemical, and agroclimatic regions. So it becomes at times, it takes one back step that how to implement on such a large scale when the production practices are different and animal husbandry practices are different. That is what is one of the bottleneck that we have to address. If it were to be uniform, probably we could have implemented the strategies and we could have achieved that, leading to the #1 export in the world. At present, India's share is about somewhere around 20 to 24% of the global milk market has been captured by the Indian. So in order to address the milk hygiene at the grassroots and take it from farm to fork until to the final trade, we need to address the hazards and we need to go for risk analysis, and we have to invent such a technologies or improvise the existing technologies so that it meets the market requirements. However, there are many questions that the consumers they will pose or the stakeholders they will pose to us. Some of the questions I am going to discuss in subsequent slides. One basic question that people ask often and we should be in a position to answer is raw milk safe for human consumption? Boiling of the milk, whether it is going to inactivate certain nutrients. That is one question that is posed. Second important question that is posed and which is attracting market also is compared to the intensive farming, feeding the nutrients at the bigger farms. When the animals they graze naturally, the pastures, such pastured cows yielding the milk and consuming such milk is more beneficial compared to the farmed animals. That question is posed by some of the stakeholders. Then of course, A1 and A2 related issues, and nowadays organic milk is also taking up and its own market share. So we'll go on understanding these questions one by one so that we can better understand the problem and we can better prepare our stakeholders so that there are no myths and only science prevails. Earlier, before going to the answers for these questions, so let us understand the biology of the milk proteins. General perception is that the milk proteins are highly fragile, just like Tinker Toys. The moment you subject the milk to any of the thermal processing, such as pasteurization, they will get denatured, and such a denatured proteins are going to elicit the immune response, leading to certain diseases. This is one of the perception of the people. Even such pasteurized milk would lead to the allergic conditions also because of the very basic structure of the protein. This question has been addressed. Many panels, they worked on this. Now there is a consensus among the people based on the research on pasteurized and unpasteurized, means the raw milk or the pasteurized milk. Now the consensus is that whether we drink a raw milk or a pasteurized milk, it is not going to affect the health or the prolonged consumption of the humans in any way. That is what is the conclusion that has been drawn, and let us promote this. There are certain health-related issues. Often people, they link the problems all together. there is one condition known as lactose intolerance. This lactose intolerance that occurs very rarely in very small proportion of the population, wherein consumption of the milk to these people who are lactose intolerant would lead to disease. Disease is the gastric upset. The basic problem with respect to lactose intolerance is the absence of the enzyme lactase. When enzyme lactase is absent in these people genetically, these people cannot digest the lactose sugar disaccharide which is present in the milk, leading to movement of the lactose into the larger intestine, wherein the bacterial fermentation of the lactose would lead to production of the acid, lactic acid and methane gas, thereby the symptoms of the lactose intolerance. The proportion of the people with lactose intolerance is very less in the world, even in India, okay, compared to those people who are lactose tolerant. There is one more condition. Milk contains a protein known as casein. This is a protein, and any protein, as we all know, that can induce the allergic reactions. But by and large, the proportion of the people who are allergic to the milk protein casein is very less. And this problem can only be identified in the young ones. Okay, so we know that there is a primary immune response and secondary immune response. And we also know that the initial exposure to any antigen, foreign antigen, and subsequent antigen, the mounting of the immune response and thereby creating the allergic reactions, the proportion of people who are allergic to the casein is very less compared to the other protein ingredients that we consume in the day-to-day life. There is one cow's milk enteropathy, which is a combination of the allergy to the milk protein casein as well as lactose intolerance. When they occur together, we get a cow milk enteropathy. Whatever may be the problem, whether it is a lactose intolerance or a milk allergy to the milk protein casein, which is IgE mediated, or the enteropathy, the proportion of people who are with these health conditions, public health hazard, what we talk about, is very minimal. Added to this, there is one more rare inherited condition, what we call it as galactosemia. In galactosemia, there is enzyme galactose 1-phosphate uracil transferase is absent. When we consume the milk, the lactose is converted by lactase into glucose and galactose. This galactose has to be converted back again to the glucose. This machinery is lacking in these people, which is due to the recessive trait, which is inherited, and the proportion of the people with the GALT deficiency is also very less. So one more health problem which is often discussed and people there is a market also for this one is the A1A2 dogma. So the basic the phenomenon that was there with respect to this A1 and A2 is, we know that milk protein, that is casein protein, is a polymorphic protein, a gene family that expresses the casein. There are a lot many variants are there. One of the variant is the beta casein. This beta casein, okay, so was homozygous long back. All the cattle were having A2.
तरफ से उसको ढकेल दोगे तुम, जाओ नहीं जा बुला लेते.
All the cattle previously they were homozygous for this particular gene, that is A2A2, but few thousand years ago in the European breeds of the cattle there occurred a mutation whereby A2 genotype transformed into the A1 genotype, and now we got the variants just like the Mendelian genetics. Okay, we have today homozygous A1, homozygous A2, and heterozygous A1 and A2. In those cattle that produce the milk which are having A2 genotype, there is a proline at 67th position of the beta casein. Because of this mutation in the gene, beta casein gene, at position 67th, this proline got transformed into the histidine. Routinely, all the milk which is obtained from the A2 genotype cattle, we have enzymes to digest these. It gets naturally digested. No health problems are seen if the milk is having A2 beta casein. In those cattle that produce either homozygous or heterozygous A1 milk, the A1 beta casein will not be digested by the human gut, thereby producing a peptide which is known as beta casomorphin. And this 7 BCM, that is beta casomorphin, is associated with some of the conditions in the human, that is diabetes, the cardiovascular diseases, autism, and other degenerative problems. There is no experimental evidence in the lab animals. Those lab animals that are constantly fed with the A1 milk, they did not produce these conditions. However, there is circumstantial evidence that those people who consume A1 genotype milk over a period of time, the proportion of these diseases was higher compared to those who did not. This was the impetus for A2 Corporation to patent this milk and market it. Fortunately, majority of the Indian breeds are having A2 frequency. That's why this is not a major issue, especially with respect to India. Keeping all these things and the constraint raised in the trade thereof, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India constituted the expert panel to review this one. And due to the lack of the experimental and epidemiological evidence in India, it is, as of now, A1 milk is equal to A2 milk. There is no question of any differentiation between the A1 or A2 milk as of now. In future, if the data is accumulated, better data is accumulated in favor of the A2, probably similar such whatever the panel conclusion that comes, we may have to follow that. So at present, there should not be any differentiation between A1 genotype and A2 genotype milk because of the lack of the data. Often, the milk is a sector now with a lot of mechanizations and processing. We have a lot of people here. The sector is growing. As I told you in the beginning, 5 to 6% is the sector growth. And there is a lot of processing. Often people, it is a question that is often asked to we people, that pasture-fed and stall-fed milk, the milk that is arising from those cows that are pasture-fed in the nature, and those who are reared in the our farms and intensive type of farming. So is there any difference with respect to the quality of the milk? So there has been some data accumulated with respect to the higher omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids and some of the essential fatty acids and a lesser proportion of the harmful fatty acids. But this data is not again conclusive to prove that the pasture-grazed milk is highly superior over the stall-fed cattle. So as of now, the milk which is obtained from whether it is a pasture-grazed cow or a stall-fed cow should be treated equally even for the marketing purpose. There are n number of diseases that would be transmitted from the cow, from the milk, the utensils, and the components of the dairy supply thereof, leading to the health problems in the humans. We call them as foodborne diseases linked to the milk or simply milk-borne diseases. We have infections, intoxications, and toxic infections in this category. Some of the infections, they are originating from the mammary gland itself. Some of the infections, they are originating from the cow. Some infections, they originate from the environment, while some from the other later sources. Ultimately, when we talk about the market milk, which is marketed in the market, is the sum of all the contingent microflora that milk derives from these different sources. Some of them are environmental pathogens, some of them are other pathogens that cause mastitis, some of them are the pathogens of the cow. They could be present, and many of them are zoonotic in nature. Some are bacteria, some are virus, some are other microorganisms that can enter in the milk supply chain, starting from the primary production unit to the ultimate consumers. So when we talk about the microflora of the milk, that is the addition of all these components. And if the cow is having mastitis, obviously we'll be having much more higher numbers and much more pathogenic organisms. If such organisms are acquiring the drug resistance mechanisms, what we call it as AMR or antimicrobial resistance, that we are going to talk in the later segment of our lecture. So they are really going to affect the health of the people. That's why we have to see that no such animal pathogens that are transmitted to the human zoonotic infections or human infections entering the milk either through animal or through the milk or through the utensil, and then entering again to the milk and the consumer getting such pathogens. We have to apply at every successive stage of milk production the hygiene measures, the sanitary measures. We have to keep the animals free from the diseases that are vaccine preventable. We have to apply certain therapeutic, metaphylactic, and other prophylactic measures so that these infections are not spread to the human by either of the transmission pathways. That is animal to the human, that is milk cow to the human, or human to then to milk, and then the consumer getting such infections. We have good number of such examples that are shown here. So tuberculosis, when we talk about tuberculosis, can be a bovine type of tuberculosis, which is caused by Mycobacterium bovis, or human type of tuberculosis, which is transmitted by, which is caused by the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It can be acquired directly from the animal or from human to animal to human. These possibilities are there. Then what we have to do is, we have to see that animals are screened periodically using the tuberculin, ELISA, gamma interferon assay, or any of these such laboratory tools, and elimination of such infected cows from the milk production chain. Wherever possible, there must be vaccination of the humans, especially in humans. In the childhood itself, there is a vaccination. If such a vaccination is done, the severity of the disease that is going to develop in due course of time will not be there. So we know that it has been well, Bunyan describes tuberculosis as a captain of all the diseases. And since centuries, we are unable to control this disease, and this disease could be transmitted through the animals because it is the zoonosis. And when many of the zoonosis prioritization exercises that have been conducted in this country with a joint collaboration of the ICMR and the ICAR, have included tuberculosis as one of the disease in the top 10 zoonotic diseases. So we have a program, TB Harega, Desh Jitega, that program also. And every 24th of the March, this is the day Robert Koch demonstrated the organism. We celebrate World TB Day. We should see that no transmission of tuberculosis occurs from the milk or the milch animal. Then only we can realize the dreams of Varghese Kurian. Second important is the brucellosis. Thanks to Government of India, it has initiated NADCP program. Under this, brucellosis vaccination is also included. You can find in National Digital Livestock Mission, you can see the government website for the number of vaccinations that have been done state-wise and the animal-wise. That's a very good movement. And in days to come, we'll be marching forward to eradicate the brucellosis after FMD. However, raw milk can transmit brucellosis, while pasteurization can kill both Mycobacterium tuberculosis, bovis, and the Brucella organisms. Three are very important: Abortus, melitensis, and suis. Canis is rare. One more important disease that could be acquired through the animals, milch animals, is the anthrax. But below you can see the reference. Way back in the year 1957 itself, World Health Organization constituted a joint committee, and the panel describes anthrax in detail as one of the classical milk-borne disease. But whenever an animal is affected with the anthrax, there is a drastic reduction of the milk production, so milk is not available. So rather than the milk, it is the animal which could be the source of human infections. Otherwise, it is a vaccine preventable disease. One more important aspect, we as a veterinarian or the milch animal caretaker, we have to keep it in mind that Bacillus anthracis vaccine is a live bacterial vaccine. There is a rare possibility that the livestock, there can be excretion of the bacteria in the milk. Under such circumstances, the farmers have to be advised to discard the milk, or vaccination has to be done in such a period where there is milk collection. There is no milk collection. So that could be the one of the take-home message from this anthrax discussion, rather than discussing anthrax as a milk-borne zoonotic infection, unlike the environmental contamination of the spores. This is Q fever, query fever, which is caused by Coxiella burnetii, is a very severe problem. Good number of veterinary schools in this country have conducted this study in cattle and small ruminants, and Coxiella burnetii is occurring in almost all species. You can read the work done by Iverai and Barbudesar, director in RCM. So his work speaks about Coxiella burnetii is omnipresent, and pasteurization kills this organism. But if it is a cream, there should be 3 degrees extra that should be provided to inactivate the agent of Q fever. It is important technology perspective. Whenever we talk about perspective, if it is a VAT pasteurization, it should be 66. If it is HTST pasteurization, instead of 72, it should be 75. So that's what is the take-home message from the Q fever. Then many infections which are in amphi direction from the milk to the human, and human to the animal, and then to the milk, they are there. These are not that serious problems, but they could be acquired are the staphylococcal infections. Staphylococcal infections, rather than seeing staphylococcal enterotoxicosis as a problem, staphylococcal organisms acquiring the antibiotic resistance, such as methicillin resistance, MRSA, coagulase negative organisms carrying the drug resistance mechanisms, or the livestock associated MRSA. These are all the important staphylococcal organisms And in the mastitis of the cow, this organism stands first when we talk about the infectious mastitis and the drug resistance thereof. However, compared to the clinical complications such as nosocomial or iatrogenic infections, what the community acquired or hospital acquired, what we talk about, medical people often they won't agree with us, that veterinarians or the animal sector the scientists, that staphylococcus is not that major pathogen to be considered when we deal with the food safety or when we deal with the animals. They only think that the clinical isolates, hospital isolates with the drug resistance are the only important one. However, of late, there is a convincing literature to state that this drug-resistant staphylococcus as one of the agent to be considered under One Health, and also it should be taken as a zoonotic agent. Salmonella, typhoid fever causing organisms could be transmitted to the milk as a milk contamination by the handlers. And then there is a possibility of getting these typhoidal serotypes and typhoid thereof, paratyphi, paratyphi A, B, C, whatever it is. However, when we compare the typhoidal serotypes with the non-typhoidal serotypes, the non-typhoidal food poisoning type of serotypes are of much danger to the human health compared to the typhoidal contaminants that could arise through the milk supply chain. Foot and mouth disease, of course, Government of India has a foot and mouth disease control program in place. We have a vaccine. It is under control now. The vaccinia, cowpox, pseudopox, they have been detected in some pockets of Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and northern and central Karnataka. So they are invariably self-limiting infections. There is much discussion about the antibiotic and veterinary drug residues. We have to follow the withdrawal period, then only we can safeguard the public health. Otherwise, it is later on I'm going to speak in detail about the antibiotic resistance. We'll discuss about that. Withdrawal period has to be scrupulously followed, meticulously followed at every stage wherever that is required, and what are those stages we'll discuss. One more important aspect is the insecticide resistance. We use large number of insecticides over the plants for the plant protection. The residues of these insecticides or the environmental pollutants, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons or the other environmental pollutants, they all could be introduced into the milk, thereby affecting the human health. So we have the WHO FAO panels for and recommendations thereof for various foods of animal origin, including the milk or the milk products. We have to see that such residues won't enter and become the potential threat to our trade under the WTO regime, because they are included under SPS measures. The non-specific gastroenteritis is often seen in humans due to the consumption of the contaminated or the milk which is produced under unhygienic conditions. So there is no very clear-cut or a specific agent responsible for that. Yet there is gastroenteritis. We call this as non-specific gastroenteritis. So to sum up these diseases, we have diseases transmitted directly from animal to the milk and then posing risk to the human health, or human diseases entering animal or the animal product and then coming to us. This is one more pathway by which we can get the infections. Diphtheria, cholera through the contaminated water, Shigella, various species of the Shigella, then even plant poisoning. Remember how this American President Abraham Lincoln's mother died. Okay, we often teach this to the students. There are many plant toxins. They could be entering into the cow body, and from cow body they will be secreting into the milk. And if consumer consumes such milk, they can suffer with the poisoning. If the toxin level is high, it can cause a disease in the animals. But if the toxin level is low, it may not cause the disease in the humans, yet they could be secreted in the milk. Bovine mastitis is a #1 driver of the antimicrobials in the dairy sector. The #1 production disease in case of dairy animals is the mastitis. And it is very costly disease of the animals, milch animals. And it is due multi-etiological agent. One of the reason is nutrition. Weaker is the nutrition, lower is the immunity, higher is the susceptibility. Then managemental conditions such as rough floor, lack of ventilation, inadequate space. These are all the managemental problems. Even misuse of the teat clusters, then abuses during the milking process, then pathogens, of course, the infectious pathogens that could be spread from cow to cow or from human to the cow. These are all some of the causes for the bovine mastitis. We have 90 to 95% subclinical mastitis. Only 5 to 10% clinical mastitis, means it is a tip of an iceberg. Suppose there are 100 cows with a mastitis, 90 cows will be subclinical, while only 10 cows will be clinical. We need to detect subclinical because in due course of time, subclinical mastitis is going to lead to clinical mastitis, and clinical mastitis drives antimicrobial usage. Antimicrobial usage leads to residues of the antimicrobials and the veterinary drugs and development of a resistance. Twofold problem. One affects the trade, other affects the public health and also animal health. That is why subclinical mastitis has to be detected. Farmers have to be taught to use the California mastitis test or similar tests so that the subclinical mastitis will not proceed to the clinical mastitis, and that is going to drive the usage of the antibiotics. That's why the one of the take-home message that can arise at the end of this discussion is that we have to train the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The farmers, the dairy owners. We have to train them in such a way that we have to create a awareness in such a way that they will keep mastitis at low, so that the other problems, especially food safety and trade related problems that aware a little later, they could be solved. The next important segment of our discussion is the antimicrobial resistance followed by mycotoxins. So AMR, antimicrobial resistance, is a global problem. Presently, there are 7 lakh deaths due to the antimicrobial resistant microorganisms, mostly bacteria. And this number is going to increase to 10 million by 2050. This is an alarming figure. That is why we have to address. And as I initially briefed you, even though the dairy ecosystems, people perceive that they are not the source of AMR, but of late, there is a concrete evidence by the various researchers in India and abroad to state that dairy ecosystems could also be the source of the AMR strains or the pathogens. Antimicrobials is a very broad term that includes bacteria, virus, parasite, fungi, and all. Antibiotics have been invented for a purpose. We know the work of the Paul Ehrlich. We know the Alexander Fleming, who has discovered the penicillin, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize, and then Domi invented the sulfa drugs. Then later on, structure of the penicillin was identified, for which they got Nobel Prize, and they could chemically produce the antibiotic penicillin, and penicillin started saving the lives of the people. And soon after the World War II, this British surgeon general, okay, who was heading the medical system in the US Army, made a very pessimistic statement that we have antibiotics, we can tackle any infections. So what is the use of you veterinarians? Because World War II is over, no more horse, ponies, and other animals are required for the war. So what is the use of you veterinarians? That was the pessimistic statement made by the Surgeon General of the US in the year 1967. We know that there are various pathways by which these synthetic or natural antibiotics or antimicrobials they work on. And since 1920 until now, we know that a good number of classes of the antimicrobials or antibiotics were invented and they are in use. But for your kind information, since 1987, not even a single new class of antibiotic has been introduced or invented, which is a cause of worry. And we are talking about the movement of the pathogens, movement of the people, movement of the animals, movement of the human waste and the animal waste in the ecosystems. We are talking. So these are all the places where these microorganisms can also move. And much of the antibiotic that is consumed by the humans or the animals is not absorbed in the gut, is excreted and secreted in the urine, feces, dung, etc. That it's carried in the drainages, and microorganisms are omnipresent. One microorganism which has acquired the drug resistance can transfer the resistance elements to the same species and the strain, or it can transmit to other one. Even the live bacteria can acquire the genetic elements of resistance from the dead bacteria. These are all the things that can happen. And you see, for your information, India is the largest consumer of antibiotics in the world. In the year 2010, India became the world's largest consumer of the antibiotics. Good number of, you name any antibiotic class, it is available. With in the year 2000, you see only 3.2 billion defined daily doses were used in India, while by the year 2015, that was doubled. So in just 15 years, the antibiotic consumption in the humans is doubled in humans. And when we talk about the total consumption of the antibiotics in India, 70% of the antibiotics are used in the animal sector and only 30% are used in the human sector. And no new class of antibiotic, these are all the classes of the antibiotic, no new class of antibiotic has come into the market since last 30 years. That is why world is moving out of, it is running out of the options of the antibiotics. What we can do at this point of time is we can only use the antibiotic which is available, because new antibiotic is not available. Why it is not available, I'll explain in subsequent slides. And second thing, when it comes to the human and the animal, the first priority is to the humans and then comes to the animals. And when we talk about those antibiotics which are under development, in the priority list, there is not even a single antibiotic molecule, promising molecule, which is intended for animal purpose. So human health itself is at a threat when we talk about the protection against the bacterial or other infections. That too, animals is neglected because we are unable to prioritize the antibiotics. That will be there in the subsequent slide. This Alexander Fleming, soon after inventing the penicillin, felt very happy. Okay, transferred the technology. Penicillin was put in the market. So infections were cured. Soon after that, there was development of resistance to the penicillin. So, in his own words, the inventor of the penicillin says it is the thoughtless person or the brainless person who is playing with these antibiotics, leading to emergence of the resistance. So, in veterinary practice, I have typed here: is it a veterinarian or a para-veterinarian or a medicine shop owner or a farmer themselves, quacks, who is responsible for this mindless or thoughtless use of the antibiotics that is leading to the resistance has to be understood, and it is different in your place. Each one of us, almost about in every state, the scenario will be different, that we have to understand. However, let us think the other side. If we blanket ban the antibiotic, is it going to serve any purpose? Definitely not. Why not means there are many infections that could be controlled by the antibiotics if they are available over the counter, and people, you cannot expect that low and middle income countries to afford a sophisticated healthcare facility at the primary level. Under such circumstances, these antibiotics are helpful for the health promotion also. At the same time, we cannot blanket ban that. Rather, what is a plausible or a logical solution for this is, let us educate the people about the judicious use of the antibiotics rather than a total blanket banning the antibiotics, because banning is very easy. But we know that there are good number of infections that could be controlled by the antibiotic. So let us use these antibiotics very judiciously and whenever it is required, and follow the withdrawal period so that we can save, in days to come, we can save $100 trillion of the economy loss that is linked to the antimicrobial resistance problem itself globally. That is why you take any One Health forum, take any global forum nowadays, the people talk about antimicrobial resistance only. Because when we talk about the public health priority, AMR is on the top list. So let us again come down to our veterinary practice or animal husbandry practice, wherein these antibiotics are used mindlessly. This unscrupulous use must be stopped. Only judicious use must be promoted by the extension. Various scenarios. We have small farmers, medium farmers, marginal farmers, large farmers. We have the mass production units, which are very much organized, automated. At all these levels, we have to prepare our own extension module, wherein we teach the people, then only what Dr. Kurian realized long back, the sustainability is addressed. Otherwise, it is just playing with a Russian roulette. We do not know. And in this cartoon, you can better understand 5 bullets are already over, the only one is left. One of the important area, as I told you in the previous discussion, that drives the antibiotic usage, and you can see the statistics here, which is very costly animal disease, managemental disease, farm disease is the mastitis. So we know that mastitis is caused by various factors related to the host, factors related to the agent. There are more than 200 etiological agents. Factor related to the environment, housing, you know that there is 4th determinant. This is what Kelvin W. Schabe told, the management and housing. They all have their own bearing on the udder homeostasis, leading to the problem of the inflammation of the udder, that we call it as a mastitis. 90% invisible, subclinical, only 10% is visible, clinical, yet it is a #1 driver of the antibiotics in the dairy production units. This is what we have to understand, and this is what we have to address, so that our milk is residue-free and there is no development of AMR in the milk production ecosystems. And from farm to fork, the milk supply chain is having freedom from such residues or resistance problems. the celebrity spokesman, US, Andrew will say that if you jump to antibiotics in the first instance of any infection, you are not giving the immunity the opportunity to overcome or counter such infections. It is not helping the host in any way. This is what is the observation. That is number one. Number two is that we know that there are n number of microorganisms. There are physical agents, chemical agents, biological entities responsible for the mastitis. Within the bacteria, there are hundreds of bacteria which are responsible for causation of the mastitis. We know gram positives and we know gram negatives. Some are broad spectrum, while majority are specific to a particular spectrum of the bacteria. How can we think that some drug available as an antibiotic in a store, in a medical store, can cure the mastitis? This is what the message we have to take to the farmers. You educate them, and if at all antibiotics are used by a wise man, such as a veterinarian, the withdrawal period has to be observed because we have lapsed this golden period. Soon after the introduction of the antibiotics, mostly the penicillin, so we had the golden period, 45 to 65, somewhere around that, where any physician was a god, any veterinarian was a god, because these antibiotics used to take care of the microbial invasion, mostly bacteria, thereby making the hands the gifted hands and a divine doctor. Now it is not the case, because within a single year of the invention of an antibiotic or a discovery of antibiotic, there is development of resistance. And as I told you, last 30 years, there is no antibiotic class that has been introduced. So we are running out of the antibiotics. We have to deal with the infections with only available antibiotics, because we do not have new class of antibiotics. That's why the problem of AMR cannot be solved. It can only be managed, because we don't have new molecules, so that we'll ban the old molecules and only permit the new molecules. As a young professional, many of you can ask some questions. Okay, this is for only young professionals who are there in this this one. Why there is no research taking place in the country or elsewhere in the world? There is research that is being taking place in various government, private, corporate laboratories. The target organisms are not the organisms that cause animal diseases. The target organisms are those organisms with immense human health significance, such as escape pathogens or critical list of priority pathogens identified by WHO. We need antibiotics first for these organisms, then only they can spill to the animals. Okay, so if you see, about 252 antibacterial molecules are in the race of development, of which the target organisms for these new molecules are the WHO top 1 priority pathogens, Mycobacterium tuberculosis or the Clostridium difficile. So you can see here, this is the data as of today. If you can go to the WHO website, you will find this one. If you see the molecules, there are 41 antibiotics and 27 other traditional molecules which are in the various phases of development. Okay, so 68 molecules are there. Of these 68 molecules, 43 molecules are against only priority pathogens. Remaining are for Mycobacterium tuberculosis and Clostridium difficile. So we do not have our animal mastitis causing, animal disease causing pathogens in this list. Okay, and when it comes to India, we are the largest consumers of the antibiotics in human as well as animals, and we have huge livestock populations, and we are #1 in the milk production. And when it comes to the meeting of the sectoral demand, okay, so it is really a helplessness state for any one of us to deal with this catastrophe. There are 70% of the, if you see the proportion of the antibiotic consumption, 70% is in the veterinary or animal husbandry sector, only 30% is consumed in the human sector. So we need much more education of the animal sector people than the human sector people in this particular country. And you see here, globally, 63,151 tons of antibiotics are consumed in the animal husbandry, and India is the one of the leading consumer of the antibiotics. So after looking into all these scenarios, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India thought that something has to be done to this one. That's why wherever that was doable, okay, the FSSI has banned these veterinary drugs or the antibiotics for use in any of the food producing animal, including milk producing animal, so that there are no residues in the milk or the milk products. So this is a list. You can go to the FSSI website. You will get the list of these various veterinary drugs that are banned. And those molecules are the antibiotics for which we cannot ban right now. They have specified the tolerance limits, and tolerance limit has to be obeyed, and withdrawal period has to be followed for these antibiotics. Otherwise, the residue, either the parent molecule or the metabolite or the conversion product, is going to affect the public health, and it can enter through the milk supply chain. So keeping in line with the World Health Organization recommendations, 6-point recommendations, in the year 2011, Government of India published its national policy for the containment of the antimicrobial resistance, and accordingly we have National Action Plan on AMR, which was there for 17 to 21, and now the revised guidelines are in place in line with the 6 steps that have been specified by the World Health Organization. So whether the trichotherapy or the mastitis control, we have to use these antibiotics judiciously, and we have the quadripartite partnership at the global level. These are all the UN sister concerns. They guide the codex, and Codex Alimentarius has specified the MRLs and the tolerance limits for these veterinary drugs. And withdrawal periods are based on this maximum residue limit or maximum allowable limit, wherein when a antibiotic or a veterinary drug is injected into a cow, so the period during which the cow is under treatment, the milk or the meat should not be allowed for human consumption until the residues deplete below the maximum specified limit by these global agencies and Food Safety and Standards Authority in India. So withdrawal period for various antibiotics, it differs. So some antibiotics it is 0, they are safe. Some antibiotics it can go up to 1 month. So by and large, majority of the antibiotics are having the withdrawal time or withdrawal period of about 48 hours, 72 hours, or 96 hours. So this is there on the label claim. So under the consumer awareness program, they have to mention the withdrawal period on the label itself. Whoever uses these antibiotics should follow the label claims and accordingly follow the withdrawal period. Within the laboratories or the institutions where they can test it, so they have to test the milk or the milk product for the residues of the antibiotics, either using the rapid test or the chromatographic techniques that can detect as well as quantify more precisely, so that such surveillance data helps the people or the stakeholders or the policymakers to get rid of the problem of residues. And if the problem of residues is taken care of, obviously the problem of AMR can also be addressed. Otherwise, what will happen? The resistant clone is going to expand in its population because it can better survive the harsh or the hostile environment of the antibiotic environment, and in days to come, upon time, the population increases and ecosystems, you know that we cannot have the airtight, watertight compartments. These organisms can spill through fomites and other components in the environment, thereby transmitting the infection to a new place where it is not seen. That is why the impact of AMR is there on the human health, animal health, and it affects the GDP and the productivity. That's why we have to address AMR under the One Health approach, wherein the people, human health people, the animal health people, the ecological people, they all join hands together and address this problem so that the public health is promoted. So these are all some different uses of the antibiotics, and we have residue problem and we have resistance problem. So, and we know that there is innate and acquired type of resistance. These genes can be acquired from the environment also. We have to see that our environments are kept clean, not having such genetic elements, so that we can prevent the horizontal gene transmission. And we have to keep the food chains, especially milk supply chains, free from such organisms. Otherwise, what will happen? We have different resistance mechanisms. We know that MDR, extended spectrum resistance, and also the pond drug resistant. It is our experience. Some of the milk samples that we get, mastitic milk samples to our laboratories, they are resistant to all known antibiotics that we have capability to test. This is a very serious problem. So such things have to be addressed locally, following the consumer awareness program, following stakeholder awareness program with that. So under One Health, we have to deal with the resistance problem, and we have the National Action Plan in our country for the AMR addressing, and all the global agencies today, what we talk about, the quadripartite, they deal with, and they have the base document how to deal with. It is not possible to discuss the framework given by each organization to deal with the AMR, but for your kind information, there is a framework for dealing with the AMU and AMR globally as well as at the national level also. Various countries have their own policy framework. Some countries have better surveillance programs which is targeted for the pathogens, and some countries have product-wise surveillance. Okay, say for example, a dairy product like that. So somewhere it is the animal-wise, somewhere it is the product-wise, somewhere it is pathogen-wise surveillance. They are in force so that these the problem of the emergence of resistance is tackled, thereby public health is promoted. We have Terrestrial Animal Health Code published by the World Organization for Animal Health. Various clauses, they deal with how to deal with these antimicrobials and veterinary medicines. These clauses have been written there. Ultimately, we have to see that in any foods of animal origin, including the milk, there is no transmission of the resistance, and there is no antimicrobial residue problem. For this, we have to rationally use the antimicrobials. Biosecurity, hygiene, quarantine, sanitation have to be maintained wherever possible, such as foot and mouth disease, the brucellosis, then other diseases. The disease eradication programs have to be taken up, and our government of India is under its various components. It has taken up the disease control program under NADCP, and capacity building and awareness creation. This is what we are discussing today. So it has to be done, and it is very timely that we should thank the organizers that they have selected such a topic for discussion on the day of the National Milk Day. Wherever possible, we as a professionals should look for alternatives to these antibiotics. That is one possible area where those students who are doing masters, doctorate, you please take up such a problem wherein new molecules which are alternatives to the antibiotics, they are there, phytochemicals or the phages or the nanotechnology derived products, other synthetic novel products, they all can be taken up so that the menace of AMR is curtailed. So, because we know the public health implications associated with the AMR, this menace can only be solved by the alternate approaches under One Health. Then let us skip all these. What are the initiatives by WHO, World Organization for Animal Health, and likewise the Government of India under the aegis of ICMR has various action plans to deal with the approval of the new antibiotic or the control of the antibiotics for trade purpose. So they meet under the One Health umbrella with the concerned stakeholders, and they devise certain strategies. They are available as guidelines and national action plan to all of us. So whatever may be the driver of the antibiotics in the dairy animal production, we have to keep it in mind that antibiotics are not the only solution for the infections. We have to take care of other aspects so that the diseases won't come. And CDC has a tagline. So much of the antibiotics in animals, it is unnecessary, inappropriate, means as Fleming told, we apply these antibiotics mindlessly, leading to the other problems which are not foreseen. We just think that we are just giving these molecules antibiotics for the control of the infections, but many more problems, the public health hazard, they act as, and thereby they pose the risk to the public health, animal health, ecosystem health. This has to be looked in a larger perspective. And we all, wherever possible, with whatever little we can do, even you can go to school and teach a batch of 30-40 students. That is also a awareness. You can talk to a bunch of farmers or a couple of big entrepreneurs who are into dairy entrepreneurship, so that they are made aware of this is what as a professionals we can do at our own end by taking the self-motivation, so that our country will not have the rejections in the trade under the WTO regime. The last segment of the discussion, I will not take much time, another 5-6 minutes maximum. Mycotoxins. Why the mycotoxins has been selected for National Milk Day, and this one is some days back, before COVID, I think, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India conducted a nationwide survey wherein our milk in several states was also found contaminated with the mycotoxin, aflatoxin M1. That is why there is a specification by FSSAI, and which is a potential trade barrier. That is why, unlike antibiotics, no cow will synthesize antibiotic in its body. It is not available in the animal feed, any of the foliage or the grains. But these mycotoxins are the secondary metabolites of some of the fungi. They are produced by the fungi. They are released in the media and they enter the animal body through the feed or the fodder. And within the animal body, there are biotransformations, and it is secreted in the milk, and it is a public health hazard because various kinds of mycotoxins are teratogenic, carcinogenic. They are associated with the histotoxicity. Because of this reason, at very high dose, they are fatal. But fatal doses are not seen in the food, milk or milk product, or meat product, egg or egg product. Their fatal doses are not seen. These are the lower concentrations of these toxins above the MRL, which is detrimental, and only way by which we can reduce this food safety hazard is understanding them. Okay, for this, as we discussed, they are carcinogenic, teratogenic, embryotoxic, hepatotoxic, nephrotoxic, immunosuppressive. Immunosuppressive is very important. Please underline this, because due to time constraint, I will be skipping some of the discussions. Okay, so they are produced as a secondary metabolite in the animal feed, in the environment, in the nature, and it is unavoidable. Why it is not? It is unavoidable means India is a tropical country. In this tropical country, it favors the growth of the molds and the fungi. When these molds they grow, there is production of the toxins. The only way by which we can manage this aflatoxicosis or the mycotoxicosis is better feeding practices, better feed fodder preservation techniques, testing of the feed fodder, and the provision of the certain toxin binders in the feed. That's the only way by which we can address this. Thereby, the human health is protected. So that's what is the aim. So there are various species of the fungi that can grow in this our tropical climate, thereby producing the mycotoxins in the food. Of the several toxins, aflatoxins and athrotoxins are very important, because they are the ones that are seen at a higher frequency than other toxins. We have Gen, Don, FB, ochratoxin, and other toxins that are available that could be there. But among all these, the aflatoxins are very important. By and large, there is a type of subclinical, sub-threshold damage that is caused to the cattle. So if listeners are, some of you are veterinarians, we should understand this. They affect productivity of the animal, they affect the reproduction of the animal, they are associated with a disease, and sometimes they are mycotoxins are associated with the death of an animal. If it is a death of an animal, if it is an infection or any overt manifestation that is noticed by the farmer, that is known to us. But the loss of fertility, loss of productivity, which are not usually noticed by the people, that is why it is a kind of concern that veterinarian has to have really insight to look into this factor. So rather than seeing just cow, let us see feed, let us get the information from the farmer, whether he is keeping in such a way that it is favoring the growth of the fungi in the feed and the fodder, thereby affecting the public health. So these mycotoxins are ingested by the animal, that is a milch animal cow. There is biotransformation, and in the rumen, some of the mycotoxins are inactivated, but majority are not inactivated. There is a biotransformation, hepatic transformation, leading to production of pharmacologically, toxicologically significant moiety, which is secreted in the milk. If it is a meat animal, it is in the meat. Okay, so from ingestion to the transformation within the cow and then secretion in the milk, they are very important. By and large, which is of public health concern and noticed by FSSI, is aflatoxin is a problem. Aflatoxin can grow in the nature. There are two variants of this one, aflatoxin B and G, B1, B2, G1, G2, depending on the fluorescence the fungi that produces. Within the body, there is a transformation leading to formation of M1 or M2. These are the ones that are secreted. Major is M1. Sometimes even B is also available in the milk, B1. Okay, at the end in the milk, either we have aflatoxin M1 or M2 or B1 or B2. These are all the possibilities that could be there. Okay, so we have to have better surveillance programs, periodic checking of the samples, and when we check the samples, if at all they are contaminated with the aflatoxins or the mycotoxins, consumer aware, either farmer awareness. Farmer can be made aware so that they will change the feeding practices, fodder conservation or fodder preservation practices. These things can be applied. Okay. So usually, as I told you earlier, these mycotoxins won't occur in a toxicity doses. They occur at a very low doses, which are important for food safety, or they are the public health issues they are having. That's why. This is not a major problem in the Europe also, because Europe is low temperature that won't favor the growth of the mycotoxins. India, temperature 29 to 35 favors maximum growth of aflatoxin occurs 24 degrees centigrade. So with a relative humidity, good relative humidity. These fungi are aerobic in the nature. They grow on the feed or the fodder and thereby producing the toxin. If the fungi, it appears blue, that is B. If it is appearing like a green, it is a G, G1, G2 or B1, B2, depending on that. And there is a transformation of these into M1 or M2. And you see in India, we say that Indian agriculture is just interplay with monsoon rains. Sometimes we get over rain, sometimes it is no rain. We have different seasons. And in the lean season, the farmer has to offer the feed and fodder. For that, he has to store the fodder. They should be properly stored. Otherwise, the growth of the mold and elaboration of the toxin, as I told you, they are the secondary metabolites in the growth of the fungi that are released in the medium. Medium means the feed or the fodder. And these toxins are not inactivated by the pasteurization process or the heat treatment, except few. Some many, especially aflatoxins and all, they are not inactivated by the heat treatment of the milk. That's one more major concern. The only way by which we can reduce is good agriculture practices, good storage practices for the feeds and fodders. That's the only way we can do to get rid of this toxin. Periodic checking of the feed. Okay, check for the mycotoxins. So at the global level, we have the MRLs for the toxins, mycotoxins. In India, FSS has specified 0.5 ppb as a limit, which is very high, 10 times high compared to the other countries. So yet our samples have failed this during the survey, and some of the states already have sufficient amount of concentration of the aflatoxin in the milk, which is a worry, which is a trade barrier. That's why we have to educate the people. There are 5 different strategies that have been that could be recommended. Okay, these strategies are: number 1, stop aflatoxin production. Means you preserve the feed and fodder in such a way that there is no growth of the fungi. If there is no growth of the fungi, no toxin is released. That's all. Some of the chemical agents or the biocontrol agents, they are available, that can be sprayed directly on the feed or the fodder, that will suppress the growth of the fungi. That is, these are on-field mitigation strategies, and better storage is one more aspect. Second is, don't offer the feed or the fodder which is infested with the fungi and thereby the toxins, mycotoxins. How it can be done? Testing the feed regularly for the mycotoxins. If at all it is feed is having mycotoxin, don't feed the cows with that. Next important is, we know that there is a biotransformation of the aflatoxins from B1, B2 to G1, B1, B2 or G1, G2 to M1, M2. There is a transformation. You provide the cow with such a product so that this transformation will not occur. If there is no transformation, there is no secretion of the toxin in the milk. For this, we use binders. Various trade name binders are available. They are either silicates, clays such as bentonites, yeast, charcoal. They are all available in the market. They will absorb the toxin, and they are excreted in the feces. They won't enter the body. So this is what is the toxin binder mechanism. Good number of commercial feeds, they have the toxin binders, recommended the concentration of toxin binder in the feed. However, at times, since there is no surveillance data with respect to occurrence of the mycotoxins in the milk, these corporates or the suppliers of the feed, they won't include the toxin binders in the animal feed. Under such circumstances, what we have to do is we have to educate them so that the toxin binders are included in the animal feed. They will neutralize, immobilize, and they are excreted in the feces. These toxin binders, they will absorb. When we talk about the absorption potential, not all mycotoxins are absorbed. Okay, because of lack of time, we did not go in details of those different toxins. In the order, in the concentration wise, aflatoxins and aprotoxins, they are better absorbed, but DON, it is not absorbed. So all goes by the chemical interaction that occurs between these toxins and toxin binders. Other type of molecules are mycotoxin deactivators. These deactivators at times come with a bioprotection mechanism or biotransformation mechanism. What is that? Say, for example, a mycotoxin deactivator can have 3 actions. One action is physically absorb the mycotoxin. Second, prevent the biotransformation. Third is you hasten the hepatic mechanisms or mechanisms of excretion of such a toxin, thereby protect the cow. So these are all the mechanisms. Such commercial preparations are also available. The last stage is see that the milk in having the mycotoxins is not served to the people. For this, we should have the periodic checking of the milk for these toxins and prevent entry of such milk into the milk supply chain. If it is found that such milk should be destroyed and should not be allowed for human consumption. By following these 5 different mechanisms, we can handle the mycotoxin problem. We cannot eradicate the mycotoxin problem because, as I told you, India is a tropical country. You cannot prevent totally the mold growth. You cannot produce the fodder under sterile conditions. But the surveillance, periodic screening of the samples, of the feed, the milk, thereby educating the people for better preservation of the feed fodder, for use of the toxin binders, and curtailing the consumption of such milk. So that's why we have to balance. We cannot blanket decisions we cannot take, which are detrimental for the productivity and the economy of the rural people, rural poor people. We know that we have good number of people into the agrarian type of this economy. Animal husbandry is one of the important livestock sectors that contributes about almost 1/4 of the agriculture GDP. And over a period of time, its contribution is increasing. These are all good things. But these food safety hazards are bad things. We can only educate the stakeholders and get rid of these problems. And now we have the One Health approach. And using the One Health approach, we can better manage these food safety hazards. And whenever required, suitable tests have to be done. One test for the use of the antibiotics is the laboratory antimicrobial susceptibility testing. Nowadays, it is all available in primary, secondary, tertiary type of cities. So farmers should also be educated with respect to the sending of the sample, going for AST, then selecting a prompt antibiotic and following the withdrawal period for that particular antibiotic, which has to be taught. Thereby, we can reduce the problem of antimicrobial residues and resistance thereof. Otherwise, it is simply for every viral infection, the fungal infection, for the non-responding type of bacterial infection. Simply giving a broad spectrum antibiotic is not going to serve any purpose. This is what we have to teach. This is simply playing with Russian roulette. Such practices should be curtailed so as to protect the human health, the animal health, ecosystem health, and promote the trade under the WTO regime. And the Usher, what our milkman said, okay, so his slogan was 8 hours for dairy, 8 hours for his that we know it. Okay, likewise, we don't expect that you spend 8 hours. If you can spend little time out of your busy schedule or whatever is that to educate the stakeholders, in larger perspective, we are going to help the country, thereby increasing the milk-related trade and protect the public health and a sustainable dairy venture in days to come. So thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. We are now ready for the questions from our participants. Please feel free to type your questions in chat box and our esteemed speaker will address them.
यदि किसी को कोई डाउट है, वैसे मुझे तो लगा इतना सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी लेक्चर है, इतनी अच्छी पीपीटी है कि किसी का कोई डाउट होगा नहीं। यदि किसी को इस लेक्चर से रिलेटेड कोई डाउट है तो वो अपनी क्वेरीज को चैट बॉक्स में लिख सकते हैं और हमारे स्पीकर साहब उसका जवाब देंगे आपको।
There is one question. The theme of National Milk Day. We do have themes for International Milk Day, that is World Milk Day. National Milk Day it is a celebration of the dairy sector in India. That's why usually it is without any theme. So that's the way ultimately the stakeholders have to. There are two things. One thing is all the success stories, the success that we have achieved in the dairy sector should be celebrated. That's one. Those people who have immensely contributed to the dairy sector should be honored, felicitated. Then policy framework has to be faced. These are all different activities that we take on this particular National Milk Day. While this one, World Milk Day, we have every year, there is a theme for that. I think your question is answered. Any effect on the milk nutritional quality? No, obviously no. But when it comes to the residue problem, if say for example, if an individual is having penicillin allergy, so there is rashes. Sometimes the allergy is so severe that there can be a fatal outcome out of that. So that's why it all goes by who is the individual. If the person who is consuming such a milk is an infant, there can be ototoxicity, means ear development is affected. There can be impact on the development of the teeth. These are all the problems. They are associated with the residues, antibiotic residues in the milk. There again, I am telling you, the symptoms may not be as like that of acute infection. They are chronic infections invariably, and over a period of time, when such a residue-laden milk or milk product is consumed, obviously it is going to have the impact because these are all pharmacologically active molecules. One more question. No, pasteurization or any of the heat treatment will not inactivate the antibiotic residues. How to check quality of milk at home? There are certain rapid tests that are available. One such test was developed by NDRI. So very simple test. What we need a heating element, heating mantle, that dry bath. Just take the milk sample, mix it with the skim milk powder, put it there. So there are spores. So if there are antibiotic residues, these spores will not germinate. So if the residues are absent, the spores will germinate. And when the spores germinate into a vegetative bacteria, there is a color change. If no such color change, they are absent. Like this, the tests are available. Dr. Goyal has developed one such test that is available in the market also. And in addition to this, we have certain rapid paper chromatography like tests available. Simply dip it and see. But the real problem with respect to detection is that there are n number of antibiotics in every class, first generation, second generation, third generation, nth generation. So it is very difficult to have such a wide antibiotics incorporated into your either disk or a strip so that they can be detected. For this, we need a data where local data. So these are all the important means. Accordingly, the panel can be devised. This is a major problem. That's why. Next, crop science. Crop science, sir, you have a lot of role to play. Mycotoxin, totally mycotoxin problem mitigation is in your hands. How you teach the farmers with respect to use of a crop residue or the fodder. That is today we are talking about One Health. One Health includes human health, animal health, the environmental health. You come under environmental health, all agricultural people. So please, you have your own module prepared at least after this discussion, so that mycotoxin production is prevented. If possible, you please set up a lab at your end wherein these mycotoxins are tested in feed and fodder. So very simple tests are available. They can be done. It is doable at your end and thereby contributing to the promotion of the public health. What effect do antimicrobial during cultured milk? Culture itself is going to fail. When residues are present in the milk, milk will not become curd because they are prevented. Starter cultures, what we talk about, starter cultures are going to fail. That's why that is a major effect of one of the major effect of antimicrobial residues in the milk is this one only. Next, what effect do antimicrobial during? Oh, that has been answered. Different types of A1, A2. Sir, at this point of time, Hirendra Singh ji, at this point of time, there is no consensus which is favoring A2. As of now in India, because FSSI is the only umbrella that we have all the aspects related to the food, A1 is equal to A2. That's all. So in future, if the data accumulates in favor of A2, then accordingly FSSI will notify us what to do with that. When it was a problem that arose, A2 Corporation, when they patented A2, we thought that entire Indian dairy industry is going to collapse. Thanks to our animal scientists, they screened all our breeds and all. We have more than 95% A2. So we don't have that much effect. And all indigenous are majority are A2. Few are having, of course, A1 genotype, but majority is A2. That is a very good sign with respect to us. Then sweet sorghum. Even silage can have mycotoxins. That's why it has to be screened periodically. That's why I am telling you, those who are from agriculture background, because you see that we have a lot of manpower constraints. Veterinarians may or may not undertake this. You please address this problem your end. So wherever possible, all these fodder growing people, fodder related people, you please have a small lab wherein basic mycotoxins are tested in your lab whenever farmer brings. And whenever the limit goes beyond the certain specified limit, you can warn these people that properly store this one fodder, or those people who are having lesser concentration of these mycotoxins, you can award them. Annually, you can award them. That's one of the way. So last year on Milk Day, this Milk Day, government has announced some awards and they gave some awards. on this day. So you as a agricultural people can award those farmers who produce best quality fodder. Pregnancy detection, somebody has asked. Yes, pregnancy detection, just like ladies, there is a strip-based progesterone estimation kit that is available, but the sensitivity of the kit is low. So just like in humans, pregnancy detection kit that's available for the animals. Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is highly safe because there are 7 different layers, and the inner one, they are made up of food grade material. You know that virgin plastic, plastic that is being used for the first time, and second, that has to pass through the safety test. That's why all these Tetra Pak or any kinds of such packs are safe for human consumption. Otherwise, remaining plastics, they will leach out this vinyl chloride monomers. And this vinyl chloride monomer can enter the body, even can enter the blood circulation, even can get deposited over the heart. Okay, this is a problem with vinyl chloride. The bit higher problem is microplastic. You know that what is microplastic? When this plastic which is available with us is fragmented, छोटा छोटा पीस जब बन जाता है, इतना छोटा बन जाता है कि माइक्रोस्कोपिक, ओके, नैनोमीटर माइक्रोमीटर में उसका हो जाता है, उसको माइक्रोप्लास्टिक बोलते हैं. So when that enters the GIT, that gets absorbed and that also enters the bloodstream. That is microplastic problem. That will cause mechanical problem. Even people have detected microplastic in coconut water. See, from soil, coconut is absorbing with a coconut tree, and within the coconut water also they have found the microplastic. Everywhere there is a microplastic because this plastic has migrated from our terrestrial location to Antarctic and Arctic. That's why that is one more area, indirect area, where we can address the plastic issue. Desi milk and exotic milk. If the desi cow, देसी गाय जो होता है वो चारा खाता है, पहाड़ में घूमता है, ये वो खाता है, तो उसका क्वालिटी अच्छा रहेगा. When you are rearing both the guy in your backyard or in the farm, providing the same food, what difference it will have? I don't think, other than the what we measure as a milk fat and SNF, other than these things, significantly different parameters will not be there between these two. बिजनेस पर्पस डिपेंड सर. सो इन्होंने पूछा है कि सुखमंदर, बिजनेस पर्पस के लिए कौन सा ब्रीड अच्छा होता है. दिस डिपेंड्स ऑन योर दिस लोकल पैरामीटर्स. आई विल गिव एन एग्जांपल. हमारे यहाँ कर्नाटक, आई एम फ्रॉम कर्नाटक को हरियाणा से 22 लेके आते हैं, 1 या 2 बच्चा दे देता है, उसके बाद वो इनफर्टाइल हो जाता है. वो सॉइल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है, व्हाई दे आर मोर फर्टाइल देयर एंड दे आर लेस फर्टाइल हियर. सो दैट्स व्हाई आप यू प्लीज सेलेक्ट सच अ ब्रीड व्हिच इज suitable to your local conditions. So upgrade that. That is the one way of selecting a breed for business purpose. There is no single thumb rule that this breed is suited for all the conditions, because many breeds will not thrive the adverse conditions, because over a generation, hundreds and thousands of years, they have adapted to that weather and climate. That's why we cannot recommend a single breed for all purpose at any place. सर क्लियर नहीं हुआ. देसी एंड एक्सोटिक मिल्क में ज्ञानेश्वर जी का आंसर है, देयर इज नो actually difference between the desi and the exotic. So when it comes to the composition, but productivity varies, which is genetic to a particular species. Say for example, in Karnataka or in Kerala, we have Malnad Gitta or Micheri cattle. Their body conformation is so small. Over these years, तो 1 या 2 लीटर से ज्यादा नहीं देंगे, मैक्सिमम 3 लीटर. वाइल आपके जो भी नॉर्थ में ब्रीड्स है, साहिवाल वगैरह, 3 से कम तो कोई देगा ही नहीं. So it when the quantum of the milk increases, when the quantum of the milk increases, the micro ingredients obviously they get diluted. Their concentration is lesser. अगर आप ये लैक्टोफेरिन और जैसे मॉलिक्यूल अगर आप मेजर करेंगे, ये कम 1 या 2 लीटर देने वाले में ज्यादा रहेगा और उसमें कम रहेगा. You got it? No replies. Okay, I think you got it. In case you have still doubt, take email. You can send me. Either myself will answer or my colleagues will answer your questions, who are expert in the subject. AI करने के बाद वो कर दिया. That I have answered.
हमारी समझ से तो सारे क्वेश्चन का आंसर आपने कर दिया है सर.
Sir.
जी जी जी. हर्षदीप जी, कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क दीजिए आप.
Thank you, sir, for delivering such an informative and thought-provoking presentation. You eloquently highlighted the critical role of milk safety in safeguarding public health, drawing our attention to the potential threats posed by infections, residues, antimicrobial resistance, and mycotoxins. The presentation provided valuable insights into the complex challenges associated with ensuring milk safety, emphasizing the importance of stringent regulations, robust monitoring systems, and effective risk management strategies. The presentation underscored the need for a holistic approach that encompasses prevention, surveillance, and response mechanisms to effectively safeguard the integrity of a milk supply chain. It also shed lights on the emerging issues of AMR and mycotoxins in milk production, highlighting the potential risks they pose to human health. So, you presented a comprehensive overview of milk safety and public health concerns, providing valuable insights and actionable recommendations for ensuring the safety and quality of milk products. This will serve as a reminder of the collective responsibility we share in safeguarding public health through vigilant monitoring, proactive measures, and collaborative efforts. So, at the end, I'm particularly grateful to our Vice Chancellor, RSKVV Gwalior, our esteemed speaker, whose expertise and dedication have enlightened us with valuable knowledge. And thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your attention and engagement throughout this session. Thank you so much.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर साहब. मेरे बहुत शॉर्ट पीरियड पे मेरे निवेदन पे आपने ज्वाइन किया और लेक्चर को डिलीवर किया. हमारे मित्र डॉक्टर अरुण खराटे जी का भी बहुत बहुत आभार. हमने उनसे ही संपर्क किया था कि सर विदार से कोई लेक्चर आप बताइए, तो सर ने कहा आपसे बेहतर कोई नहीं हो सकता. तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you, sir.
और आगे भी हमारे विश्वविद्यालय को और हमारे फाउंडेशन को आपके एक्सपर्टीज की मदद मिलती रहेगी, ऐसी उम्मीद करते हैं. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. जी जी, थैंक यू सर. जी जी, थैंक यू. सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स लेफ्ट कर सकते हैं.